Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Lee. I'm excited to be here today. Fresh off the playa from Burning Man. You may have seen my newsletter about how to plan a burn and then burn your plan. But today I'm going to be talking about something very different. I will talk about how to get your executives on board with AI. And I put into the title this whole idea of how do you teach an old dog new tricks? And I think here it's not just about teaching your execs how to use AI in a normal way. This is a very different type of technology. It's not like how to use a CRM or how to use the latest enterprise technology that you bring on board. This is a very different type of training that has to happen. And it's much more about addressing the issues that leaders and executives face when taking on something like AI that is so transformative. So I think about it as not teaching an old dog new tricks, but I, for example, train my cat how to do tricks. Now, nobody expects a cat to be able to do tricks. My cat does over a dozen tricks. And so this is not something that I think is so unusual. Cats are very trainable, highly motivated by food and love. And so I think again, executives understanding what is at stake, understanding the special role they play in the adoption of AI as a transformative strategic way to create value is extremely important. So let's get into it. All right. I have a bunch of slides here today, and you are very welcome to just take a look at them. Oh, also, if you're joining, please live, please share how are you getting your executives AI fluent and on board with driving AI initiatives as a strategic function. So I would love to hear from you. And again, the slides are here. Let me just get them up. All right, let's get going. So I often have talked about the need to close what I call the knowing, doing, leading gap. And that is we know that AI is going to be transformative. We may be using it in some way or form to maybe do some tasks, but we're not truly leading and showing up as leaders to drive AI as a transformative force. And I think it's so important that executives be involved. And so you're seeing more and more CEOs come out with what I call AI fluency mandates. They're having these rallying cries. This is a ex post from Shopify CEO Toby Luckey, and he talks about how we need to make AI part of every day. So, and that AI will be added to the performance reviews, and that before you can add more headcount, you need to say why you couldn't do this with AI. So, this whole idea is about becoming not just AI fluent, but AI fluent in a way that it's impacting the entire organization strategically. And I think it's so important to do this for your top two levels of executives because they're the ones who think most strategically about AI. And this is what oftentimes I hearing when I work into an organization. I talk to the execs and like, so how you doing with AI? And they're like, yeah, we're seeing some efficiency gains here and there, but we're not really seeing the strategic impact. And then my next question, so how are you involved in this? And their usual responses, I'm not IT. I'm not responsible for driving AI in my organization. And that's the root of the problem. And that if AI isn't seen as a strategic initiative, that you're not thinking strategically about it, then it's going to stay at that efficiency and productivity stage rather than be strategic. So, again, I think it's so important to get your top executives on board with AI and not just understanding it, but fluent with it, using it, having their hands dirty in the mess of it and understanding what it can do, what it can't do, and thinking strategically about how to use AI in the organization. So think about how you want to get your top two levels of your organization, those top executives, the most strategic thinkers of your organization, AI fluent, not just literate, but fluent. All right, so this is how you can do it. So I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm in San Francisco, and I'm seeing this huge influx of people bringing their executives here to expose them to AI. They book times and meetings with OpenAI and Anthropic. They meet with a bunch of interesting startups in the AI space, They give executives some hands-on experience, and executives love this. Sometimes they're called safaris or exploration trips. And they go, ooh, and ah, and they cheer and they applaud. And then they go home and it looks pretty much exactly the same. And the problem here is that it's great to get that exposure, but it doesn't necessarily have that lasting value of real change and impact being created. So, what I want to talk about today is how do we get out of innovation theater? How do we get execs excited about AI? I'm not saying don't do those things, but you also have to do other things. It's not enough because there are so many issues associated with AI that it is just a hard thing to learn and adopt if you aren't already sort of an AI native and thinking about it. So let me just go and talk about some of those things here. All right. We have a bunch of, let me get my slides up again. So one of the things that's been interesting is seeing why is it that people resist AI? And some of the research has talked about this fear, the unknown, the fact that we feel like we lose our autonomy. We don't know what it means now in our roles if AI is doing a lot of this work because, hey, I created that PowerPoint. Those are my ideas. What does it mean when AI can do this work for me? And there's also a lack of trust. People may have used it in the past, didn't get good results, so they shove it to the side. I want nothing to do with it, is what they say. And then also there's this is a lot of education and information that needs to go into it. So a couple of things that I think is so important. The first one is to make it very, very personal. And I'm just checking to see. Oh, I have a couple questions here. I just want to just do this and just check. First of all, thank you, Jay, for posting the link up for the slides. Jay Johnson has this question: are executives facilitators or inhibitors? This is what we're talking about today. In that, if you do not give them that training, if they do not become AI fluent, if it is not a concerted effort, they will be inhibitors of AI. They will be the people who stand in the way and it's like, we can't trust it. I want nothing to do with it. I'm not devoting any time for my teams to work on this. But if they can see the strategic value of AI and they experience it personally, they then become facilitators and advocates and momentum builders for AI. So I think this is something that Jay makes a good point. Providing an environment of trust and agency, how we measure value as intrinsic and not a derivative. Absolutely. And we'll talk about trust and agency in just a second. So let me just move on to see the comments. All right, no other comments. Let's get back to the presentation here. All right. So making it personal. What I find is a generic approach to teaching somebody about AI, and especially very busy executives, just doesn't work. And what I have found works with executives over all these decades of working with new technologies is that you have to make it personal. And in particular, there are just three things that typically an executive cares about. It's the reason why they're successful as an executive. It's because they have been able to focus, execute, and create value against very clear objectives. And so, if it's not one of those three top objectives that they care about, things that they are personally invested in and making sure succeeds, they won't care. And there's no chance you are going to reroute or reorder the things that are on their top to do lists because that's why they're successful. So, what you have to do is think about how AI can help them achieve one of those three objectives better, faster, cheaper, and safer. So, really understand your executives' needs, their strategic objectives, and say, okay, this is an objective of yours. Is that correct? Oh, yeah, that's great. I really want to work on that. And you ask them, how would you like to see how AI can help you achieve that? Or have a discussion with them to say and explore how could we use AI to help you achieve these objectives? Again, trying to insert a new objective onto and put it on somebody's list is a really hard climb. You're much better off finding ways to use AI to make something they care about more feasible. So the one of the key objectives that we hear from executives are these things. Well, it's not IT's job. It's not my job, it's IT's job. No, it's your job to accelerate growth. It's not just technology. It's too early. It's moving too fast. Well, this is where, again, we have said over and over again, Katja Welsh, my co-author, and I have said speed is the new moat. So speed is the way that we will get an advantage with this new technology. And we're going to learn, even though it may be constantly changing. Show me the ROI. This is not about very specific return on investments. These are strategic goals of yours. If it's important for you to achieve those goals, then what's the value of being able to get to that goal 6 months, 12 months sooner? How do you measure the ROI of that? ROI is the wrong measure to be looking at. And then time. I just don't have time. I'm a really busy exec. And we're asking them to actually potentially save time. It's the thing that they have the most limited resources on. How to use AI to help them be more effective, be more productive, be more strategic in the way they execute their work. So I want to go on and just talk a little bit about how to do this. So giving them hands-on training. So this is more than just showing them how to write prompts. It's really getting them to understand how to take that one strategic objective they have and then use AI applying it against them. Last year, I did a workshop with 15 top CEOs. And one of the things we did was created very basic, simple custom GPTs for them. And we wanted to, oh, let me just show you what that, where is it? Here we go. Here's the custom GPT that we made for them. Going a little bit out of order here. And one of the things that we did was just find a couple articles, a couple presentations that they had done and gave the GPT, the custom GPT, a little bit of information about the company. Again, all publicly available information. And the results that they got was just so much better. And even if it didn't probably make that much of a difference on the margin, the fact that they thought it would gave them more confidence that it would be more specific to them. So it doesn't take a lot of time to set these things up. You can show them how they can customize it for themselves. But even uploading it with a little bit of information about the company to give the AI some context makes a huge difference in getting better results. So a couple things that we think is really important to do is to make sure they learned how to trust AI. And we often use this trust pyramid to talk about how to address concerns around safety, security, and privacy, because if those things aren't addressed, they won't trust AI. So this is the type of training you need to give people, because if they're inherently afraid of how this technology works, then they can't listen to any of the training because they're just having this fear overhang them. And that's all that's the filter that they look through to see what AI is actually doing. So using the AI trust pyramid, it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You have to address the bottom tiers before you can do higher tiers. And it's all about, again, training that addresses and not really talking about the tools themselves, but developing this trust in AI so that they begin to use it, feel more comfortable experimenting with it, and then all the way to how do you be transparent about your use and feel accountability around it. So a couple things that the AI trust pyramid also creates boundaries of saying these are the things you can do and the things you can't do. So instead of boiling the ocean with these executives, frame it again in those top three objectives, make it very clear what they can do, how do they stay safe. And again, that safety then creates that speed and the experimentation that gives them that confidence to try lots of different things. All right. Want to talk about the third area, which is how do you create, again, lock AI into the fact that you do things every day? And I think it's all about routines. So the routines, here are some examples of how to make it much more routine. So at the start of every meeting, you can ask, how did you use AI to prepare for this meeting? Again, this can go in multiple directions. If you're a CEO and you have execs, you can say this to them. If they haven't used AI, then set the expectation that you're going to have them come to the next meeting having used AI to prepare for the meeting. And if you are reporting to an executive, you can begin the meeting just so you know, in total transparency, this is how I use AI to prepare for this meeting. And so they're like, oh, that's interesting. So again, making it part of that routine. You can ask for AI first drafts by saying, what insights did AI contribute to these recommendations that we're discussing here? Again, similar to how you use AI, but just really showing in very concrete ways the ways that AI is contributing to the output and the creation of value. At weekly meetings, set aside some time for people to share a task or a workflow where they're using AI to improve it. It could be improving the quality, improving the output and the efficiency of it. And you're building a library of best practices. You can do an audit. Ask people, did you run this through AI to get its perspective, to ask it to challenge our assumptions here? Or you can say, this is how I use AI to challenge my assumptions. Again, just working AI into the things that you do every single day. And I really like this last one, which is a prompt, especially if you're using it in development discussions with the execs. How did you use AI to grow yourself in your role? Like, how did you use it to help you do the things that you do every day better? And so, again, this is an active conversation that you can have by building AI into these conversations that you have routinely all the time, from weekly check ins to project updates to development discussions. We're building AI into the everyday things that we do and making it a habit, making it a routine. All right, I just want to share this really wonderful comment from Gabby. Totally agree, Charlene can share real world experience in the article I wrote. She wrote this great Medium article about how the future is now human AI collaborative, coding best practices. So thank you, Gabby, for sharing that. All right, let me continue on with some of the other content here. Just a little bit more. I think it's important to give people some measurable performance because the idea here is to actually integrate AI fluency into the performance reviews. I've started saying to people, you need to get your teams AI fluent, and you should set the objective of making sure that people have the support and the training so they can be confident in their use of AI. They can feel like they are AI fluent in the next 6 months. And people look at me like, oh, that seems really hard. I'm like, why would it be hard if it's a priority? If you really want your workforce to be AI ready, to be AI fluent, you think this is going to be extremely important to your success as an organization, then dedicate the resources to making that happen. And again, with your executives, give them some dashboards, give your people dashboards to compare how are they doing on their fluency. So this is a very basic dashboard. I've seen some from other people. They have metrics they can see. They have enterprise level AI tools inside the organizations. They may have Copilot from Microsoft. They may have enterprise AI from Anthropic or OpenAI. And they can see how much time people are spending on AI. They can see the number of interactions they're having, the number of apps they're using, the percentage of work that they're doing. This is again a bit of a fabricated measure, but you can estimate and how much of the work is being impacted by AI. And then all of this can be used to create a sort of fluency score. And then you can get that score for yourself. You can get that score for your team. And then you can get that against all the other departments to create a little bit of accountability and a little bit of competition. I know one organization started doing this for their legal department in particular because they were trying to figure out what was going on with their legal department. Why were they still working so slowly and not at the speed of AI that everybody else wanted to work at? And then digging into it, they realized they weren't using AI at all. And so they put in place these dashboards across the organization so that nobody was being picked on. And the legal department could see that they were significantly behind, like orders of magnitude behind in their use of AI compared to everyone else. And so that became a conversation starter to say, your organization, your department may not be taking advantage of all of these tools that are available. Let's see what kind of training and support we can provide you to make sure we're elevating your work and your AI fluency. So instead of thinking about it as a shaming exercise, it's a way for people to create accountability for themselves and to take on the learning that's needed to make sure that they are becoming AI fluent. So there is a shared goal of the organization making sure people are becoming AI fluent, but it's also the responsibility of these individual executives, of your individual workers, of employees to own some of that education themselves. All right, going on to my last point. I also want to just talk about how hard this is to do for an executive. And in particular, learning a new skill, learning something and experimenting with it, making mistakes with it can be really nerve wracking, especially if you're an executive and you're expected to be able to just do this day in, day out and to just be competent and really good at everything you do because you're the leader, you're the executive, you're supposed to know what everything is happening. You're supposed to know how things work. And when it comes to AI, none of us really are experts. It's just constantly changing. There's always more to learn. And so that can be really frustrating for individual executive because it can be very vulnerable for them. And so I strongly feel that this is really about changing the expectations, especially when it comes to AI, about having all the answers and then instead moving to be able to ask great questions because you're modeling this continuous lifelong learning that is at the center of what I believe is excellence. It's taking a beginner's mind and making it okay to do experiments, to have what Barry O'Reilly was a wonderful resource around creating AI ready and AI native leaders about a hunch mindset that instead of having the answer to everything, you're going to have a hunch that this might be something that we could try with AI, doing a little experiment with it, and then now it worked or it didn't work, or yeah, that's a better way to do things. And so creating that space for executives to be able to learn and to learn in public so that they are modeling for everyone else on their teams and throughout the organization. This is how we need to learn now. This is how we're going to be operating and executing. Because again, if you're going to make AI part of the routine, also talking routinely about what's working, what's not, how you're using AI, what is it good for, what your experiments have showed you, what it's not good for, and being open to other people showing you, well, that may not have worked for you, but we found a workaround for that, and being able to celebrate this. So this is a very different way for executives to be thinking and working. And I just really want to take a minute and just emphasize it's so important to make it safe for these executives, but also to set the expectation that it is going to be uncomfortable and that that is exactly where they need to be because you're learning and growing. That's a sign that you're learning and growing when you're feeling a little bit uncomfortable, not quite sure, still a little bit fuzzy on the edges kind of thing. And that's exactly where they want to be. So, not a place where many executives feel comfortable. So, being aware of that when you're bringing executives on board, that they are going to be learning in public and that it's okay for them to be making mistakes, to demonstrate what that learning looks like, and to have the humility to admit, we're all learning here. Let's all learn together. All right. I think that's the main slide that I have. Yes, that's the last of it that I have for today. All right. So again, I have this other, just one other comment here from Jay Johnson. A key capability is alignment, individual, organization, and community. Thank you so much for sharing that too, because I do feel that in the end, if you're aligned around using AI for your strategic goals, then you're going to be a lot better off than all these gazillion use cases. Again, use cases are not a strategy. And you want executives to feel aligned between their top objectives, what the organization is doing with your AI roadmap, and making sure it all ties together. All right. All right. Speaking of AI roadmaps, next week, I'm going to be talking about pilots, and in particular, the pilot purgatory of AI initiatives that are out there. MIT came out with a study that said 95% of AI pilots fail. I have a very strong perspective, very much fueled by Katya's experience in leading AI projects for the past 15 years. And in particular, AI projects don't work because the way that we structure pilots. So we'll talk about how to get out of pilot purgatory. It is not an issue with the technology. It has everything to do with leadership and how you set these things up from the very beginning. So we'll talk about how to set it up in a really good way. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Again, thank you so much for joining. This is what makes it so wonderful and exciting to be sharing this content week after week. I love hearing from you. So please reach out to me by email, by social media. I read everything in the comments, everything. So by all means, continue to share your knowledge, your questions, your experiences. I love hearing from you. And I'll talk to you soon next week. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.